and you cut it out the same way you would a duck. And you come out with something like this. And I've drawn on where I'm going to place the fins and do some carving around the head. To get the fins all even, I'll set it on the table, and I have a flat pencil. And you'll just take that and you'll go along here and draw on each side, and they're even. For attaching the tail, I'll use 2-part epoxy. I make the fins out of either aluminum or copper, and some I make out of steel. You can buy shingle flashing, works good, cuts nice. Just need a tin snips to cut any of these. Aluminum is real light, and copper's heavy, so it makes a difference when you come down to the weighting portion of the decoy, what fins you use, because you don't need as much weight in the back if you use copper fins. It weighs a lot more than aluminum.
So do you mix them?
Yeah, I do sometimes. Sometimes I'll, you can bend copper nice, easier, you know, make a nice smooth curve with it. You just warm it up in your fingers, and where the aluminum is and the steel are a little, they want to kink easier. So I like copper for the tail.
Yeah, I meant more for the weight.
Well, yeah, sometimes I'll use copper. Most of the time I use aluminum just because it's cheap, and I get it from the seamless gutter guys. Always have leftover ends on their roll, and they'll just give it to you because they don't get anything for recycling it. So, I glue the tail in with, I put a slit in. I use a this on my, I got a Dremel with, it's a little diamond wheel, and I cut the groove for the tail, and I epoxy it and I clamp it and let it sit overnight, and then the next day I take the clamp off and I'll drill a couple holes all the way through, and then I'll use a toothpick and super glue, and then you just carve them flat, and that keeps everything from moving and the tail from spreading, so it keeps it real solid, because most of my decoys do get used. I also use this for cutting the slots for the fins, and raises a little smoke, but it cuts a nice straight line. And so that's when we get to about this point. We've got all the fins, they're just put in loosely, and then you try and find the center of, see where it balances. It's usually, this one will be probably about right. Forstner bits, and I was taught that you drill about 1/3 of the way through the fish, and then you fill that up about 1/3 of the way. And you can add more as you test it in a tank, or you can drill some out with your electric drill if it's too heavy in certain spots. And it takes time to learn how to do that. But then once I get the lead poured, then I'll attach the fins, and what I do for that is I'll take super glue, and when they're in here I'll just run a bead on each side, and they'll soak into the wood, and they get really, really solid in there, and you can't pull them out with pliers. And
so you're pouring hot lead into the...
Yes, this is,
So you must have a...
I got a little melting pot, yeah, and a ladle.
How hot do you have to get it to melt?
You can do it on your electric stove. I used to use a tin can, and yeah, propane torch works good.
I don't know how safe
Do you
it would
ever,
be to use your stove though to do that.
Well, yeah, you gotta be careful. Lead and water don't mix either. You gotta be careful on that, because if you're testing them in the tank, then you need to have a little more water. I take my air compressor and I blow everything out real good, and then I've got a blow dryer in my shop also that I use for making acrylic paint dry faster, and I'll run that in there too, just so I make sure I get all the moisture out, because it'll shoot right out. It'll turn to steam, and then it'll spit the lead out at you.
you ever make yourself little plugs of different weights that you can just slip in there while you're doing the...
No, I kind of like to do things the hard way.
There's you put too much lead where you can drain it out.
Yeah, I drill it out with my electric drill. I have a friend from Michigan. He puts it on the bottom. He put little about the size of a chewing gum stick, and he'll put as much on the bottom as he needs to sink it. So he knows about how much lead he's gonna need, and then he'll drill the holes accordingly. Usually I wind up adding a little more to the nose, to get him to dive a little better. And you can also tweak the fins a little bit to either bring the back end up or, front end down, or however.
Now do you make all the fins look like that, or you make different kinds of fins?
No, I make different kinds of fins for everything. I kind of take them from the reference material, and then I make them bigger, just so they glide better. You gotta have kind of bigger fins. I also taper the back up to the top, and then they jig. When you jig them up, they come up a little straighter that way. And then you have all you try and keep the lead as close to the bottom of the fish as you can, just to keep it more stable. Otherwise, if you get it too high, they'll want to rock back and forth. Let's see, we got the lead in it, and I glued the fins on. And for eyes, I use either glass eyes I buy at the taxidermy place.
Yeah.
Dan Dykes, yeah. So they have all different sizes, all different colors, and I get some generic ones, and I get some, this bass I could have used. They make one for a bass with a little red in it. I'll paint that on later.
Clear eyes and paint the back, right?
Yeah, you can do that too. Or I use a lot of upholstery tacks. This one I'll paint around the tack, and the tack will be the pupil. And or you can do the same thing with just plastic stick pins. Here's some glass eyes. And you can get the plastic stick-on ones. They come in all different colors. The line ties, that's kind of
I have the plastic in a different color, not just a traction thing, isn't it?
yeah. That's all they're made for, is to attract northerns to the hole. I got some old rough upholstery tacks. Attaching the line tie, usually, sometimes I have to move them a little bit here and there, but if I try and put it right at the front of the front fin. So that one would sit right there in front of that fin. And sometimes you might have to move it a little forward or a little backward. These fish, this one I made multiple ties on the fin, and you can adjust it however you like it to swim. You can adjust it. These, when they're out of the water, see the tail hangs, and once they get in the water, that buoyancy will bring the tail up and it'll hang level. And you just kind of adjust it till it gets to the right spot where you want it. I'll sometimes use just a thumbtack and move it around until I get the right balance. And I either use brass and I'll put a little drop of super glue on that to make sure they're anchored real quick, because sometimes they do get hit by the northerns, and they can tear stuff apart pretty good. And once I get everything done, once I get all the lead poured, I forgot this part, yeah. Once I get the lead poured and I'm ready to test them, I'll put 2 coats of shellac over the top, so it seals up all the wood. Even I make sure I get it on the lead pockets real good, so none of the water gets into the decoy. And I'll fill any gaps by the fins with this 2-part epoxy. It's like a jelly. I use that for setting eyes on my fish and ducks too. Dries real quick. And so you got everything all sealed up, and that's when you test it. And then I usually let them sit. After I pour the lead, I usually let them sit a couple days. Just if it gets hot and the wood expands or whatever. And also after I shellac them, they'll sit for a day or 2. And after you get them wet and do the testing, before I plug the hole, I use that 2-part epoxy for that also. I'll let them sit a couple days so they all dry out real good. And because sometimes you'll get I don't think any of these sometimes the wood will shrink back up and that plug will stick out a little higher than the wood.
You use actual shellac?
Yeah, I use shellac on it. It dries fast, it soaks in real good. Sometimes depending on the wood, if I use cedar, then I thin it down a little bit with denatured alcohol, because that'll soak it up. The pine, usually, I use pine on most of them, and that doesn't soak it up. It's got a little resin in it already, so it doesn't really soak it up a lot.
Curt, what percent, when you're in the contest now and you got the tank there, what percent is judged on the swimming and what percent is judged on the
Yeah.
how well it looks like?
There's different classes. This one I had in the, this is in the dark house class, which ones they're gonna use, and they judge about 80% on swimming, but it's pretty close to 100%. If they like it, if it swims really good, and they like it to go real slow and in a nice circle, and go around about 3 times before it hits the bottom of the tank. Probably right around a 3-foot circle, 2.5 to 3 feet. And in the decorative class, which this one is in the decorative class, they have to, they judge them on how, well, the dark house class also has to hang level, and then it has to go in a circle when you drop it. You let go of this thing a little bit. In the decorative class, they have to hang level, and they don't have to swim as good. They judge probably about 30% on how they swim, and then the 70% is how they look.
So how do you get them to go in a circle?
Well, you bend the tail a little bit. My patterns are all, they got a little bit of bend in the tail, and then you can bend the tail and these fins and the top fin, and you can get them to go in about 1.5 foot circle if you really crank on everything. I like what some people make with wooden tails. I like metal tails. They're easier to weight with the lead and get them to swim better. And they're more durable. Grain in the tail will always, all the old ones you find are all got a little chip in the tail or have been broken off or something. They're just not very durable. And if I do make this is going to be an otter, and his tail's kind of thin, so once I get everything carved and I'll wood burn the whole